this. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to lurk nearby, but you run with it. Thank you so
Okay,
much for being here.
for sure. Sounds good. Well, I am going to just share my screen. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, hi, everyone. My name is Candace. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I want to introduce myself. So, I'm Candace. I live in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm a military spouse and a mom. And I am a career changer, a career switcher, whatever you want to call it. I have been in web development professionally for the past 1 year. However, I was freelancing as a WordPress developer since 2018. And I just want to share a little bit about who I am and why I'm before you today to talk about leveraging LinkedIn content to jumpstart your career in software development. So I was always like the multi-passionate girl who could not stay in one lane. So if I can be honest with you, I'm in my 40s and I just made a career change, but I've done so many different things since being in, the working field. So a little bit about my background. I am a former math and STEM educator. And when we had our two boys, I decided to come home and I taught online. And y'all, this was before COVID. This was before everybody was teaching online. So this was 2018 when I decided to teach online full time. So I was contracted with some different companies. And then I did some coaching on my own and really just started to thrive being online. And I've always enjoyed technology. And so while I was doing that, I knew that I needed to have like a personal brand. I needed to have a website to kind of share a little bit about who I am so that when other teachers who were wanting to leave their in-person classroom to try this whole entrepreneurship as a teacher, they would know about who I am and how I can help. And so that's when I stumbled across WordPress and I began to use the themes and the plugins and all of those types of software within the platform. And I don't know if you all are familiar with WordPress. Let me know in the chat if you're familiar with WordPress. But WordPress is okay, great. Janet says oh great. So all right, I don't have to explain it too much. Well, it is an open source software platform. And it is a beautiful CMS. Still to this day, I appreciate it. And that was one of the things that I said, no matter what I do in the future, I know that I want to continue to use WordPress. And so, long story short, I went from working at home, learning WordPress. I made my first website, and then people saw my work. And then next thing you know, I'm freelancing and I'm creating websites, more like web design at that point. And then I learned a little bit about HTML and CSS and how I could use code to really customize a lot of these WordPress themes. And I fell in love, you guys. I fell in love with coding. And it was during the pandemic and while I was learning code that I decided that I was going to quit because JavaScript was kicking my butt. Can anybody relate to that? JavaScript. If you have tried JavaScript, it is nothing like HTML and CSS, right? So HTML, you can pick it up pretty easily, and then you get into CSS, it's a little bit harder, and then you get into JavaScript and think it's going to be the same thing, and guess what? Your girl quit in 2020. Now, we all know what happened in 2020. My kids came home, my husband came home, and it was a lot mentally and physically. And I am more introverted. And so it took a lot for me to even do the things that I needed to do and wanted to do. And we were trying to figure this whole thing out, right? So, yes, I see some people said JavaScript is hard. I quit for a second. Yes. So people can relate to that. Now, how did I get here before you today? Well, that was 2020. And I took a job where I was working as an administrator. And I knew that it was going to be something that I wasn't going to do long term. But long story short, I mentioned that I'm a military spouse. My husband ended up leaving for a year. we thought it was only going to be 3 to 4 months. And in that year, raising 2 boys with special needs, I burnt out. And I literally had to leave my job because I could not get out of bed. I wanted to. I was talking myself up to get out of bed, and it was so difficult. And I had to make the hard decision to quit my job. That's real. Um, and y'all, that was just in 2021. That was just in 2021. Actually, I'm sorry, that was in 2022. It wasn't in 2021, it was in 2022. April of 2022 is when I quit my job. And literally, I had to take from April 2022 to October 2022 to rejuvenate, to self-care, to find out what is it that I really want to do. And during that time, I also took a writing program so that I could tap into my love of writing. And it was amazing. I really think that was part of my healing process for burnout. All right. So I promise you, we're going to get to the slides, but I need to give you context. So October 2022 is when I decided, you know what, I'm going to jump back into this whole software development thing. I'm going to jump back into JavaScript. JavaScript is not going to beat me this time, right? And so, y'all, that was like literally a year and a month ago. I decided to get on LinkedIn. I thought LinkedIn was for, like, I hate to say this, but the dry people. And so I was like, I've heard that I need to get on LinkedIn though. So I got on LinkedIn. I had no idea what was going on. I wanted to be kind of anonymous. And I decided that I was going to share my journey about how I am jumping back into JavaScript. And I just decided to share what I was learning, the mistakes that I was making, how I was overcoming these mistakes, my plans for the future with web development, projects that I was working on. And the next thing you knew, I ended up getting 2 jobs within 90 days of being on LinkedIn. So October 2022 is when I got on. And then December 1st, actually was less than 90 days, it was 60 days. December 1st is when I ended up taking 2 jobs. I had a web administrator job with the state of Texas, and I took a contracting job as an instructor for software development. And I was just as surprised as you are, Jacqueline. I was like, what? What is happening? So, what I'm going to do here is not say that I have cracked the code to LinkedIn, but there are things that I did not on purpose. And then some things that I started to be more purposeful about and to share these things on LinkedIn. And it's actually helped some other people that I've worked closely with to start getting attention from recruiters, getting interviews. And these are entry level people in tech. And so now I'm going to share my screen. Before I do, please let me know in the chat if you have any questions, and then I can jump into my presentation. All right. Any questions? Or do you want me to just go for it? Y'all let me know. You want me to just go for it? Okay. All right, go for it. I love it. I love it. All right. So this presentation is all about standing out on LinkedIn with epic content. So you'll probably hear a lot of people talk about how you need to optimize your profile. You need to make sure that you have your work history and you detail the technical skills and the soft skills that are relevant for the position that you want and all that. Everybody's talking about that, right? Everybody's talking about that. But this is one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about that I started talking about, and I didn't realize how much writing on LinkedIn could actually help people to get more visible. And so today, that's what we're going to do. So, oh my goodness, what happened? Anyways, I don't know what happened there, but for today, this is kind of our outline of what we'll do. So you just have the introduction. I'm going to show you a case study of what happened with me personally. And then I'm going to show you what I teach with those who I coach and those who I just have given the inside scoop. It's called the EPIC framework for writing. Then we're going to do a little workshop time where you'll have an opportunity, if we have time, for you to try out this technique. And then I'm going to invite you to take action with me in the month of December. So lastly, we will connect, of course, if you're on LinkedIn. So hopefully my slides aren't messed up. Okay, here we go. So I am Candace Zachariah again. You'll see that I have a master's in education, and I will always hold that close to my heart because I have found that in software development, there is a need for education, and this has become my niche. Accidentally, and I love it because it gives me an opportunity to use the skills that I've had in my past career and bring it to the forefront in software development. But you'll see here that I've kind of branded myself on LinkedIn, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of people talking about that. But at the time, this is what my profile looks like. I put front end developer because that's the type of position that I wanted, educator because I was open to teaching, and I also wanted people to know that I was a military spouse. And then I also wanted people to know that I am a WordPress enthusiast. And even with that, I was learning how to use the latest technologies to build apps and websites, even with WordPress. Then you'll see here, when you start your creator account on LinkedIn, you have an opportunity to share what are the things that you want to talk about. So at the time, I was talking about JavaScript programming, careers in tech, learning to code, and web development. Remember, this was like a year ago. And I ended up starting there, and I ended up in a completely different place. But I want to show you how all of this worked out, a little case study. All right. So in October 2022, as I mentioned, I made my first post. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that no matter what I do, I always need to let people know how I'm showing up. I don't want people to define who I am, but I wanted to define who I wanted to be on LinkedIn. And so I committed to my brand being about women in tech, always encouraging that. Building in public, which is kind of scary, right? Like if you've ever done that, sharing your projects is a little scary because people will give you feedback. Sometimes you're like, "Ooh, I don't know anything about that," or "Ooh, that was helpful." It puts you out there, but it is so good. And then again, most of what I talked about was my journey to web dev. And who was my audience? Actually, at the time when I was writing, I didn't know who my audience was. I was just writing for me, if I can be honest. But then I realized that there were my peers, other entry level developers, other career switchers, other teachers who were wanting to hear more about what I was learning and how I was overcoming. And somehow the things that I was writing about was very relatable to people. And so I decided about 15 to 20 days in that I wanted to talk a little bit more and get personal about why I wanted to make a career change and also about relearning the basics of web development. And so for social media, my preference is LinkedIn. So that's why we're here. But there are other social media platforms that you'll hear other developers talk about where they build a professional brand, on Twitter, on Instagram, and all that. But let me tell you why I like LinkedIn, because you do not have to have an image. When I show up on Instagram, I love the images. I'm a visual person, but to be a producer on Instagram took a little bit more out of me than I was ready to give at the time. And still, if I can be honest, I love Instagram, but I can't produce content as well because I also have to have an image. And so I also like LinkedIn because it's a professional network and it is easy to connect with people. In fact, I'll just share something a little personal. My dad had a heart attack about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks now. And I had connected with people that I knew cared about me. Like we had built rapport in our DMs and things like that. And when I found out about my dad, there were people that I reached out to and said, "Hey, if you pray, can you pray for my family, pray for my dad?" And I just never knew that you could actually build those types of relationships on social media, especially LinkedIn. But even though it's a professional network, you can also go deep with the few. And I have really appreciated that. But I just want to encourage you to find your social media that you enjoy. Let me hear from you. What social media platform do you like and why? And I'm going to go ahead and go into this fourth quadrant here, but I really would like to hear that after I finish this. And so the content, again, was purposeful in that I just wanted to share what I was learning. I was not sharing to get the attention of recruiters. I was not sharing to get a job, but the outcome is that I ended up getting two, a full-time job and a contractor job. And so I wanted to share with you all just a little bit of what my post looked like. Thank you, Julia. So Julia said that she loves LinkedIn and she also enjoys Discord. I like Discord too. I realized that as a developer, being on Discord is pretty important. So I've been trying to learn how to navigate that as well. All right. So let's take a look at a post. This was one of, well, before we get into the post, let me show you my my analytics. So remember I told you that I started writing on LinkedIn in October. So you'll see where this big black arrow is. I wasn't writing anything. It's a flat line. And then I decided to write. This is where it all started. So as you can see, I wrote and it gradually increased. And of course, there were days that I didn't write. I don't think writing every day is necessarily sustainable for everyone. Some people, they love it that much that they're able to write every day. But I wrote enough where, you know, I was like, okay, I'm sharing. Now you'll notice here that there's a dip, and that's because that's when I got my two jobs, right? So remember I said in December, on December 1st, I actually had orientation with both jobs. And so that was the month that I was getting it in, working. And so as you can imagine, writing on LinkedIn was not the priority. And then I ended up doing a boot camp that was focused on React. And so it was not focused on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We jumped right into Bootstrap, React, and all of those things. So I shared a little bit about my journey as I got started late January. And then this was when I did my boot camp. I was committed. I did not have a lot of time. But as soon as I jumped back in, wow, look what happened. So I just wanted to share this with you because you might think that, oh my goodness, like, is the algorithm going to be favorable to me if I haven't written yet? Yes. Yes. You can start where you are today. It doesn't matter if you're brand new. You can start writing on LinkedIn today and you can grow an audience. And if you fall off the bandwagon, you can jump back on, right? So let's go back over here to the left. I wanted to share with you the framework that I use to get these results. And so I have written in the past, I told y'all about this writing program that I was doing. And from that program, I was able to tailor a framework that I could use that fit my personality. And I felt like worked very well with LinkedIn. And it's called Epic Content. It's an acrostic here. So one is emotionally engaged. And so anytime that I share on LinkedIn, I try to have one element of like a story or a question or a staggering statistic or even emojis just to show that I'm a real person, to share a little bit about my life. And also because we like a little drama, right? Like, so you want to emotionally engage, but the right kind of emotional engagement. Sometimes it's a confession. Oh my goodness. Like those have been some of my best posts when I just confess something. Number two are my points of interest. And so after I share a little bit of my story or I ask a question or I have that staggering statistic or whatever, I move into points of interest. And what that is essentially the body of my content. And that is where I will have a list of 3 to 5 things. I try not to go beyond that because we know our attention spans are, you know, we're fighting for attention on LinkedIn. And so I actually want people to read it. And so I'll have 3 to 5 points of interest. This might be 3 ways that I overcame a problem, 5 tips for overcoming anxiety as you are building a project or whatever. Those are the points of interest. And then number 3 is I for inspire your audience. And this might be more of my personality, but anytime I share on LinkedIn, I like to also encourage other people. So I'm like, hey, as I'm doing this or I learned from this, guess what? I'm not that special. We can all do this together. You can do this. And so I like to inspire you all, my readers, whoever's reading, and then lastly, a call to action. And y'all, a call to action can be anything. It can be answering a question in the comments, signing up for a workshop. I actually do a monthly coding workshop. And oftentimes, when I would share things, I would say, hey, if you want more support as you are learning to code, you can sign up for the next monthly free workshop. It's in the comments, something like that. I'll ask a question like, have you ever experienced this? Would you mind sharing how you have overcome? So that's the call to action. You want people to be engaged. Yes, emotionally, you want them to get some valuable content from you. You want to inspire them, but you also want people to move into action. So I believe my next slide is where we will see, yes, we'll see a post of where this took place. So I believe this was one of the first posts that I wrote. I told you a little bit about how I was freelancing with WordPress. And it's been about 5 years now. But, you know, in this job market, I knew that in order to find my place in this industry, that I might have to do something a little different. And so at this time, I didn't have a job. At this time, I didn't have a job. Um, this screenshot actually I took about 2 or 3 months ago, but I wanted to encourage people to think about how, as an entry level web developer, you can start freelancing today. And the reason is because you can gain experience. You can build real world projects. That's really hard to say, real world projects. It allows you to work through problem solving. And so in this post, you'll see that I emotionally engage. All right, so let's look. When you're first starting out as a web developer, it's normal to feel a bit intimidated and or unsure of yourself. But did you know that you can start freelancing as a web developer today, even if you only know HTML and CSS? That's what I did in 2018 after learning HTML and CSS for a couple months. It was just what I needed to shift my understanding of being an aspiring web developer to a freelance web developer and professional in the field. So that was my story. That's how I wanted to emotionally engage. I know people resonated with it because I got DMs, I had questions in the comments. This was one of my best posts on LinkedIn. But remember, there's 4 parts to this. There's the E, the emotionally engaged, and then the P, which are my points of interest. They're not here, but it is on the next page. So this is continuing. So reasons entry level developers need to start freelancing today. Freelancing can help build confidence. Freelancing can help build a portfolio. Freelancing can help build skills. Every time I've completed a website successfully, I feel proud of myself and grow more confident in my abilities. So those are my points of interest. And then lastly, we will have the inspiration, and then we will have the call to action. So, and if you are hoping to land a full-time job, it's a good start for building a professional portfolio. Have you considered freelancing as an entry-level developer? If not, would it be helpful for me to write a guide to help you get started? Let me know what you need in the comments. So we see the inspiration, right? If you're hoping to land a full-time job, this could be a good place for you to start. You can do this. And then the call to action is, tell me, how can I help you? I've done it, but I want to help. I want to help be a part of solving the problem of us not being able to find jobs as quickly as people were able to do 2 and 3 years ago. All right, so that is the epic content. So let's review one more time. Remember, we have E for emotionally engaged, P for points of interest. We have I for inspire your audience, and then C for call to action. So I thought before we get started with this, that we could take a little moment and let's see if anybody would like to be brave enough to to help me write a post. How about that? So we're going to use the chat. I don't know any other way to do it here, but we're going to use the post. So can the comments here on the platform, can someone give me a topic that we should write about, that can share an experience that is common to most entry-level developers or career changers who are wanting to move into ooh, yes, that would be awesome. Awesome. Yes, I love faces. I love faces. Okay. So Katie said that she's turning everyone's camera and mic on. So if you want to participate, oh my goodness, this is making my day, y'all. I love when people are willing to like participate with me. It's the teacher in me, y'all. I promise. So you don't have to, but if you have an idea, let's do this together. Let's do this together. So Shelby said struggling to land the first role. Okay, so is that an idea that you want us to talk about? Okay, for a topic. Great. Okay, awesome. So we need to do this in the EPIC framework. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back over to EPIC so we can remember: emotionally engage, points of interest, inspire your audience, call to action. Okay, so for the beginning of our post, Shelby, help me out. Struggling to land the first role. Have you found a role yet? Okay, you have not. Okay, great. So I guess you want to hear from me about this. Okay, so I'm going to start this post. Now, this is like in real time, so I hope y'all don't mind if this is a little rusty. So, three ways to increase your chances of landing your first, I'm just going to put first developer job. Okay, so you're going to see this in the comments in just a minute. All right, so that's going to be our title. Okay, you said you don't see your, okay, yeah, I see a couple people here.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt you, Candace.
Yeah.
I just want to let everyone know. So this function, we have to sort of turn your presenter mode on. So you'll get a little pop-up that says enable presenter mode, and you just have to hit yes. It doesn't mean you're automatically going to be on screen. It's just going to let you access your camera. So you have to accept yes for that to happen. So I'll go through, and anyone that hasn't selected yes, I will give them another opportunity. I will give them the turn on their presenter mode again, and then just hit yes, and you'll be able to turn on your camera if needed. Or
Thank
your
you
microphone.
so much, Katie. I really appreciate you willing to do that on the spot.
Oh, of course. I love the engagement. I'm so happy.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our title, and if you want to jump in with the conversation, please let me know. I really would love for us to do this together, and not just Shelby. So Shelby, you are welcome to continue with me, but let's think about how can we emotionally engage. Is there anyone that has landed their first developer job here? If so, I would love to hear a little bit about maybe three things that you did to get your first job. You can type it in the comments, or you are welcome to turn on your microphone and speak. So I'll just wait a little bit, and if not, then I can share three things. All right. Okay, so three things I like to start with my points of interest, and then I like to maybe think about a story. So, for the 3 things, I would say, don't be afraid to DM. That's 1. This is really on the spot. Oh my goodness. Okay, don't be afraid to DM peers and recruiters. Number 2, be authentic and share your joys and challenges. And number 3, build in public by sharing your projects. Okay, so those are going to be our points of interest. Natalia says, I haven't landed a job yet, but I go to tech meetups a lot right now. Yes. So if we wanted to expand this, we could put number 4, attend tech meetups virtually and in person, right? Because there's always going to be opportunities for both in the tech space that we're in now. All right. Does someone want to give me number 5? Even if you're not 100% sure, what have you heard? What is a tip that you have said, oh, I really need to do this, or I've heard it, this is great. Julia, thank you. Julia says, stay positive. And I'm just going to add a little bit more. Stay positive and don't give up. You got this. And honestly, that could be like our inspirational part. But okay, so we have our title. Our E is emotionally engaged. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story. So if I were to do my whole post, I would say when I first started looking for a developer role, I knew my work would be cut out for me. But I have learned that if you want something different, you have to do something different. All right. So that's my story. So that would be the beginning. Then we would have our points of interest. We're going to put this all together in just a moment. And so let me actually put it together. If I would have thought about this, how this was going to actually work out for us, I would have thought about doing this like on a on a Google Doc or something, but it's all right. We're improvising. Sometimes you got to just improvise, right? So you'll see in just a moment that we have our title. We will have our emotional engagement. And my numbers went away. And then I'm going to inspire. Okay. If I can do these things afraid, I believe you can too. Let's support one another on the journey to our first, to securing our first job in software development. All right, so you'll see that's the post in that last post that I made. And then we're going to have a call to action. Can someone give me a call to action? Remember, this is where you can have a question for someone to ask. You can ask them to sign up for something. maybe I'm just thinking off the top of my head, maybe inviting someone to get involved with GDI. If they're looking for that type of support, um, have you considered the community at GDI? That could be a call to action, but let me hear from you. What could be a call to action for this? A question, a way of engaging others in the comments. So actually we're ending the post. So if you look at the post here, we have 3 ways to increase your chances of landing your first developer job. We have the emotional engagement, which is when I first started looking for my developer role, I knew my work would be cut out for me, but I have learned that if you want something different, you have to do something different. And then we have our points of interest. Don't be afraid to DM peers and recruiters. Be authentic and share your joy and challenges. Build in public by sharing your projects. For some reason, I couldn't copy the other ones quick enough. So, but yes, you can have up to 5. Then remember, we have the inspirational part. If I can do these things afraid, I believe you can too. Let's support one another on the journey to securing our first job. And the last part is the call to action. So that's what we need. So we're not going to add any more to the list, but you are welcome to, if you wanted to do this on your own, you're welcome to add as many as you like. But I'm wanting to get some ideas from you all. How can we round this out with a call to action? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, Natalia. You're saying the call to action could be, do you have any more to add to the list? You're saying this is asking the reader. Okay. Took me a while. Awesome. Great. Thank you, Natalia, for that. I apologize for not understanding. Emma, another one. Tell me in the comments about other ways you have used to land your first role. Yes. So those would be perfect call to actions, because you want people not only to read, but you want people to engage, because as they engage, you will build relationships with people. You will have the opportunity to like see who you might have in common. And y'all, you never know when any of these connections that you have done, even through your comment or through your content, could lead to a future opportunity. And so, yeah, you want people to engage. You want to talk with people. You might see something somebody said, and it inspires you to message them directly, a DM. So I'm gonna stop there. I want to ask you all, how do you feel about writing content? Like, maybe before this workshop, you were like, okay, LinkedIn, like I'm on there. I don't mind reposting. I don't mind maybe sharing a little bit here and there. But how do you feel about actually writing original content? I would love to see some words like I'm scared, or I don't know, or I'm encouraged, I'm ready. Like, would love to hear from you. Let me know in the chat. What apprehensions do you have? What makes you excited about it? So Julia says, I have been thinking about it, but wasn't sure how to start. Okay, great. Emma says, apprehensive about how former colleagues might react to seeing this new direction. Yes. So I can understand that. Emma, if you remember earlier, I said I wanted to be kind of anonymous on LinkedIn. I didn't want my friends and my family and maybe past coworkers to know my business. So I didn't add them on LinkedIn. Eventually they, we would cross paths and we would add each other. But I think it's okay to think about how you show up. So you may not necessarily, like I was explaining earlier, you're not writing to get a job. Like you're not what you're sharing is actually bringing value to the community, to whatever community that you are a part of. So if you're a software developer, you're a product manager, whatever, you are bringing valuable content to the table. It's not you showing up being desperate. It's not, hey, I'm looking for a job. You can do that, but the way that I'm talking about creating content is just showing up and showing that you can provide value. And so I think that kind of solves the problem of worrying about, like, okay, what are my former colleagues or even present employers, friends, and family thinking? But I can totally understand that. Natalia says, I want to start writing on LinkedIn. Not my strongest part, but I feel like I need to be active there to land my first job and grow my network. So Natalia, I want to tell you this. I worked directly with 3 people in the month of October. I did a LinkedIn challenge, which I'll tell you about in just a moment, but there was someone who got laid off right before we were about to start the challenge. And she was really nervous about just putting herself out there, because she was like, Candace, should I like tell people that I just got laid off yesterday? And I was like, I think maybe you should do it when you're ready. So we actually didn't start the challenge immediately with her. And we went about a week or so into it. And then once she put her stuff out there were so many people that could relate. And I was impressed by the way that people were responding. And y'all, she got interviews as a result of writing for 14 days on LinkedIn. And it was amazing because she didn't think that she could write on LinkedIn. But I do believe that with this framework, it gives you a good starting place. It's not to say that it's the best way, but it is a way. We don't want to start with a blank slate, but if we have some kind of framework, it gives us a guide for how we can begin writing. So I hope that this was helpful for you, because you can certainly grow your network and it will increase your chances, because the reality is most people that are fighting for the jobs are doing the same thing. Everybody's applying for jobs. Everybody's doing the resumes. But in my personal opinion, I think if you can communicate, starting with writing, it takes you a lot further. Y'all, those 2 jobs that I got, I never even had to share my portfolio. I was ready to, but honestly, I think it was because I had already demonstrated who I was and how I show up. And so I just want to encourage you to at least try it. What is there to lose, right? Gina says, I feel like I don't have much to say as I'm early in career. And I can understand that, Gina. And I would just encourage you to just share where you are. What are you learning? What are you excited about? What are some mistakes that you're working through? Because even as an early career seeker, you have something to bring to the table. You do. And there are other people that can relate to you. And you're going to find 2 or 3 people that are going to be like your LinkedIn BFFs. If I can be real, I do have some of those. And so just start somewhere. And I can totally understand that it's scary. I'm scared every time I write a LinkedIn post. I write it and I close my laptop. And then I'm like, I'm not going to look at it, because it was more for me than to think, okay, am I valuable because of the feedback? So I would say do it for you. And then as you do it, as you practice, you're going to get better at it. Okay. Marissa said, I would love to, but I do not have a lot of connections on LinkedIn right now. So I'm not sure if my writing will ever be seen. Marissa, when I started, I had 0 connections. But that's how I got the connections. It was through writing. I'm not 100% sure of how LinkedIn does the whole algorithm thing, but LinkedIn made sure that I was connected to the right people. Like my content got in front of the right people. And I was also seeing other people's content, whether it was original or they were sharing content. And so if you look at this graphic and remember, it was flatline. I was brand new to the platform. So we all start from 0. And so don't let that keep you from starting, because you might be surprised. Letitia, I need to start and then it will become easier. You are absolutely right. But it is great to have some guidance on how to start. You are welcome, Letitia. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and share this with y'all. So I'm going to do another 14-day challenge in December. It is a completely free thing. What I want you to do is, if you are interested in doing the 14-day LinkedIn writing challenge with me, to find me on LinkedIn, connect, and send me a DM, and I will send you prompts that you can use to jumpstart your 14-day LinkedIn writing challenge in December. So we'll start December 1st and go through the 14th. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know by connecting on LinkedIn. Please do a connect, because I won't be able to see your message unless we're connected. And I will be sure that you get what you need to start. And you have over a month. You can start now if you want to get a little practice, but there's going to be a lot of people starting in December. So one other thing, you might have noticed that I use my epic content framework even in my talk here. Did y'all notice that? So I shared my story at the beginning. I emotionally engaged. I shared my points of interest, which was sharing about epic. And then I inspired you to do the same. And then the call to action is here. I want you to do it too, with me, with my support, with other support who have done this. And communication, like I said, can go a long way. So if you can write, then before you know it, the next thing you'll be doing is speaking, if that's something that you think is next for you. And it can open the doors of opportunity in so many different places. Ashley Ann, I don't want to miss your comment, so I'm going to read it real quick. I'm trying to define my story, coming from 8 years at a startup that I helped lead through acquisition. Wow, ton of achievements that I don't acknowledge, but feel imposter syndrome and feel fear interaction. I've led socials everywhere for others, but I have a hard time being more of your own advocate. And I can totally resonate with that, Ashley Ann. But I think that it's time to do it, right? Like, especially if you know that there's going to be a lot of people that are putting ourselves out there December 1st through the 14th, like, you can do this with us. And so DM me, let me know how I can help. And yeah, like, it is time to advocate for yourself. As a person who suffered from burnout for a long time, like, I understand how that can feel. But thank you so much for sharing that as well. Marissa, you are awesome. You are welcome. And so that's all I have for you today. But I did want to see if you all had any other questions before we move on. If anybody wants to share their video or say anything on the audio, that is fine with me. So I'm here for y'all. You're welcome, Ashley. Natalia, you're welcome. Any other questions? All right. Yeah, for sure, Shelby. For sure. All right. Well, let's connect on LinkedIn. It was a pleasure to meet all of you. I hope that we get to chat a little bit. I get to hear some of your story. Oh, yeah. So it's actually my name. I'm gonna put in the chat here. Candace Zachariah. I think I'm the only one. Lisa, your question says, do you think anyone will cheat and use AI? Actually, I think it's okay to use AI if you are looking for ideas. But one thing that AI cannot do is share your story. So maybe you need some ideas. Maybe you're stuck. I think it's okay to use AI. I use AI for a whole bunch of different things. Sometimes I need topics to write about. And so I'll go to Chat GPT and I'll say, hey, I'm a web developer. This is my story. Can you help me to think about 3 posts that I could share this week about fill in the blank? And of course, the output is not going to be my voice. It's not going to be my ideas, but oftentimes it will jog that creativity. That's how I use it. I don't use it every single time I write, but if I can be honest, there are times that I use AI to help me write. Just like we use AI sometimes to help us code, and sometimes we'll use AI to check our grammar. So I don't think anything's wrong with that. But of course, that is a personal preference. You are welcome to, aside for yourself the ethical matters of all of that. You all are welcome. It was a pleasure to chat with you all today, and I hope you all have a great rest of your time here at the hackathon with the workshops. It's been amazing, and yeah.
You're awesome, Candace. Thank you so much. We are so excited for the opportunity to continue to stay connected with you, and this amazing opportunity to join the LinkedIn Challenge. Thank you so much for making that available.
Yeah, for sure. There'll be a lot of people doing it. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks. And so everyone else, we have one more session. We have a fireside chat about starting a startup and what that takes and how to get involved in that. Just click on the top banner, hit agenda, and there'll be the join button for that session now. But I hope you all enjoyed this amazing and interactive session. Thanks to Candace. I really appreciate you, Candace.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right. Have a good one. Thanks again.